and welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Grateful Redhead podcast. I'm Angie, your host, and I am welcomed here today, or actually I should say I'm welcoming here today a person who I was really intrigued with because she does breath work and meditation. And for those people who know me, I have always been kind of gravitated towards those skills and being able to find more of that inner peace with myself. But for also those that do know me, I struggle with that. I aspire to do yoga every day, but I don't. I aspire to do breath work every day, but I don't. But I'm always a learner. I really am a lifelong learner, and I don't think that ever ends for any of us. So when I came across Miriam, I realized that she would be a great person to have on the show. Not only for me to be able to share with you guys, the importance of what I think that this can bring to a daily life and to being able to extend a life full of joy and balance and happiness. But honestly, I want to learn better for myself. So I'm going to have a selfish podcast today, invite somebody that can teach me a lot in an area that I really want to be better in. So I want to welcome to the show Miriam Trejon. She is joining us from Maui, Hawaii. Correct, Miriam?
That's right. Aloha.
Aloha to you. So I won't really go into your background. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what brought you into the field that you're in now and how you got there.
Well, thank you so very much for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share about breath and meditation with people. I've been a breathwork practitioner for over 20 years, and like you, in my earlier life, I really wanted to meditate every day. I've always been very interested in consciousness, but my mind was very, very busy. I have a sort of type A personality, always wanting to be productive. I love the feeling of being productive, don't you? Like you get a lot of things done.
I can relate to those terms.
So in around 1995, I had the great good fortune to meet a breath master who had studied in India. Her name was Swami Santyananda. And she taught a breath practice called Pranayama, which means breath of life. And at the time, I really needed calming. I had left a destructive relationship marriage to the father of my two children. I'd started a new relationship, and I was really in need of some clarifying and emotional calm and peace. And I grew up in a pretty chaotic household, so I knew how to create chaos. It was kind of my default. So when I found breath practice, I had studied in college. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, so I had always been interested in the mind and consciousness. But when I found the breath teacher, it was as though someone had given me this really magic doorway into like I had been looking for this doorway for, it seemed like my whole life, a way to access higher realms of consciousness through meditation by using the breath practice to clear the emotional body, to calm the mental body, to soothe and vitalize the physical body. Those are all benefits of breath practice. I didn't know anything about breath practice when I met this woman, and I was a little hesitant. And she says, "You're ready. Come to class." I said, "Okay."
She could probably see it on your face, right?
I think she could hear it in my voice that I really just wanted what it was that she had to offer, even though I didn't really know what breath practice entailed. So I went and I sat, and she was the first person I had met that truly knew what she knew, what she knew. And she came from this really deep place of awareness. And I thought, oh, I want that. I want that awareness. I want that knowing, so that it's beyond belief. It's beyond faith. It's a place where I've had experience in the energies. And I practiced with her for about 10 years. I studied over and over. I went to her classes. I studied privately with her. I wanted to absorb everything that I could from this practice. So there's a lot of different ways that breath practice can be constructed. There's a variety of offerings out there, and many of them are quite good. However, I had tried the just follow your breath, and I found that my monkey mind was not able to really, that wasn't quite enough.
I have
for
that
me.
too, that same problem.
Right. So I could do it for a little while, like 30 seconds, maybe 15. That was really not enough to achieve a meditative state. So the breath practice that I teach now is based in large part on what I learned in my breath practice and some ensuing study. Once I left her instruction, she stopped teaching. So I began to look around on my own. I read everything I could find. I studied and studied. I went to other breath workshops, the few that I could find. At that time, there just weren't very many people teaching this material. So the breaths that I teach, there's a variety of practices like the alternate nostril breathing. Let's just take that one for example. Alternate nostril breathing starts with breathing in and out of both sides of the nose. And then you close off one nostril and breathe in only that other side. Then you close off both, lift up the fingers from the other side, and breathe out the other side. So basically, you're breathing in, closing off, breathe out the other side. Breathe in, same, close off, breathe out the other side. What happens in alternate nostril breathing, because the nose is so powerful, inside the nose there are fleshy waves of tissue called turbinates, and they spin the air as it comes into our nose. And the left side and the right side are very different. So if you tried that while I was talking, you may have noticed one side is completely closed and only the other side is working. So which side was working better for you?
Well, and you saw me do it because we're on the video, but for those who are listening, I did try it when she was explaining, and it did take me a minute, to realize, okay, when I'm breathing in, I need to release both nostrils because it took me a minute to get my fingers to go with my brain. So I found that the left side was much more clogged than the right side.
Okay, so in the course of the day, your dominance of nostrils will change. Your left side is your quieter, more receptive side. Your right side is your more excited, active side. And since we're actively doing that, it's not terribly surprising that your right side was more open. But as you do the practice, so if you would give me a moment to re-explain the alternate nostril breathing, because people want to try it. It's really simple, and it's really very balancing and harmonizing.
I would love that, actually. If we could actually do it, I'm going to do it with you right now. That would be fantastic. So everybody get comfortable in their spot, and we'll do a breathing exercise right now together.
Okay, so here's how I explain it. Close your eyes. And just breathe in and out of both sides of your nose. So your mouth stays closed through the entire exercise. You're only breathing through your nose. Now take the first two fingers of your right hand like the Boy Scout salute. So you've got your thumb on your third and fourth fingers and the first two fingers, and touch your third eye, the middle of your forehead, with those fingers. Okay, so now just relax your arm down. So you got your fingers on your forehead and the rest of your hands kind of dangling down your nose. All right, now just follow along. It's easier to do than it is to explain, so just try. Breathe in both sides of your nose, and breathe out both sides of your nose. Now take your thumb and close your right nostril and breathe in the left side only. Now close off with your fingers, lift up your thumb, breathe out the right side only. Breathe in the right side only. Close off with your thumb, lift up your fingers, breathe out the left side only. Breathe in that same side. Close off, lift up your thumb, breathe out. Breathe in same. Close off, lift up your fingers, breathe out. Breathe in same. Close off, lift up your thumb, breathe out. Breathe in same. Now let your hand drop to your lap and breathe out both. You may open your eyes. So now, since you're breathing in both sides of the nose, you're sending the air across those turbinates in their little spiral patterns, and it kind of makes this intersection in the center of the brain, and it brings both sides of the brain into harmony. You can do a similar thing just by bringing your fingertips of both hands together. Your hands occupy a lot of real estate in your brain. So release your hands, let go. Hands apart. Now bring your hands back together. Press all your fingertips together, just very gently. Notice how it made your brain change. Do it once more. Let go. If you ever have to do any public speaking, this is a great thing to do if you just to get yourself together. It brings you to a centered place. So that's what's happening in the brain when you do alternate nostril breathing. So my podcast, we do some nice quality, smooth breathing led by whatever seems to be moving in the moment and that day. It might be working with the backside of the body, trying to open the back ribs. It might be breathing in and out of the heart, opening the heart. And then we'll move to a practice that includes exercises like the alternate nostril breathing that we just did. When you do a specific practice of breath exercises, it changes how life vitality, which has been known by a number of names across the centuries, is prana or chi or ki or just life energy, vitality. It is an electrical field that moves throughout our bodies. And when you use the breath practice, it harmonizes your entire system and brings mind, body, emotions, and your spiritual realm all into a kind of resonant harmony. And when you're finished with that, your mind is calm, your emotions are sort of smooth and flowing, and you're much better prepared to move into a meditation practice.
It felt really good. I mean, even just those few breaths that I did in and out, like it felt nice. So combined
Wonderful.
with more of throughout the body, right? More like you just were mentioning, it would feel like the whole package, not just
right.
up here in the brain,
Yes.
kind of feeling better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the sadhana, a sadhana is a Sanskrit word for practice. The sadhana includes a number of breaths that harmonize the brain, work with uniting the mind with the heart, expanding the breathing capacity through some stretches and opening, some very dynamic, powerful breathing that really turns it out. Chum, 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 this sound like that the breath makes. When you get to the end, you're like, oh, that was really refreshing.
like a workout almost. You feel like you had a whole body workout.
Yeah, it is exactly. So I'm really glad you used that word, because one of the things I'm really fascinated by is the idea of a kind of mental workout that meditation practice brings us to. So now you've done your breath practice, your mind is quiet, your emotions are free flowing, you're really seated in your own beingness. What happens in meditation? For me, when I first started, it sounded kind of boring, sort of like watching paint dry. Like, wow, this is what, okay, now I'm here. Like, it's kind of a lot of nothing, but it isn't. What do I do? So the meditation practice that I do is based in some part on the study that I am doing right now with a group called Luminescence. They're available on the web at luminescence.com. And it is a practice that is very deep exercises and skill building in consciousness, being able to recognize subtle energies and flows and follow them with your consciousness. And for me, that's a kind of workout. And it's beyond our ordinary mind. It's an accessing of a higher mind quality, a deeper evolution. I think of it as an evolution of what we are coming to as human beings. We are learning to surpass our customary, ordinary perceptions of reality and allowing reality to enrich and deepen. And this is the place that meditation will introduce you to. These explorations of consciousness is what awaits us in a meditative practice.
But it feels like, I mean, I'm only speaking from my own, understanding and what I have felt during it, is that it feels like it's taking me a long time to even make it something that is an everyday or more like a habit. That even though I know it's good for me and I know I feel really good when I do it, it's still one of those things that I think of, oh, why didn't I do that earlier? When I was having that chaotic moment in the middle of my day, why didn't I stop and do breathing? Why didn't I get on the floor and just do some stretching? And I can't be the only one that feels that way, that life feels like it gets hurried and rushed, and at least for me, I have a tendency to put maybe self-care on the side during the workday and keep self-care more for maybe the evening or the weekend. And that's probably not a good practice that I'm in, or a good habit that I'm in to do that. You've been at this for a while now. Is there some time in your practice that you felt you really gained some traction, or is there some moment that you can recall, or what could I look forward to?
That's a really, really great, really, really great question. So let me give you a couple of tips. These are really easy to do. And so people have to make a certain level of commitment, right? Before you get momentum. What you're talking about is momentum. It's like you get a little traction, you get a little momentum, and then you kind of forget to do it, and you feel like you're always starting over. And you really are. I mean, you will generally make practice over time, but it's going to be a lot slower. So here's what I did. I joined this meditative practice of pranayama. Having a group really helps. So if you want to listen to meditation, there are a number of apps that are really good that you can just put in your phone or on a device and listen to. You can listen to my podcast, and I'm sure there are other really good meditation podcasts that are available. But a couple of things that I did in the beginning that really helped me to get my body to sit down and do the practice, right? So part of it is that our bodies, we wake up, we have a pattern, we do this, we do that, we do this, we do that. Next thing you know, we're out the door. So what I did was I found a piece of music that I could listen to, and I just made myself sit down and I put the piece of music on, and I used the same piece of music for a year. I did not change my music. I used the same piece of music. Pick a piece of music that does not have any words, because you don't want your brain involved. Something that's sort of rhythmic, something that's free flowing and fluid. There's a lot of good meditation music out there. There are a lot of artists that are doing. I have a few recommendations on my website.
Okay, great. We'll make sure you share that at the end so that I can go there and our listeners can check it out too.
So here's what the music does. The music entrains your physical body to the practice. So when I would put the music on, my body would say, oh, time for breathing, sit, breathe, do the practice, do the practice. Sometimes, to be really honest, in the beginning, The practice brought me to places of emotional flow that was so powerful. All I could do was sit on my cushion, light a candle, and cry. And that was my practice for the day. But I was in a really tough place. My life had fallen apart and reorganized, and it was, I had a lot to process. So that stopped after a while. But the music provided a container. And it also created a kind of habit for my body. My body listened to the music. My body did the breathing. My body was now my friend. My mind listened to the music, and my mind was now my friend. So you're trying to make this habit, and if you just rely on your willpower, you're probably going to have uneven success. But if you involve your whole mechanism, your body, your emotions, your mind, and the music can do that for you.
Yes, music is so powerful, so powerful.
So powerful. So it creates this container. And the other thing I like to think about meditation. So meditation is a kind of a field. When you're meditating, your brain waves go from ordinary, everyday, and I don't know if it's alpha or beta, but the scientists have a name for the particular brainwave that it is in ordinary consciousness, to a different level of brainwave. Your brain patterns actually change. And so it's not one or the other. It's kind of which pattern is a little more dominant in how your brain is acting. So when you're listening to this music and you're doing your breath practice and you're doing your meditation, your brain also changes. And so now you have a habit, your brain has a habit of reaching that space. When you create that field with others, you amplify each other's energy. You, Angie, have different frequencies than I have. I have my own calibrations. I have my own group of frequencies that is Miriam. You have yours that are Angie. If we were to meditate together, we would enrich each other's experience. So if you meditate with a group, you are amplifying your ability to find that field. So in my meditation practice on Miriam's Meditations podcast, that's the podcast name where you can find my practice. When I record the episodes, I am sitting with a small group of dedicated meditators. We're all meditating together. And it creates what I like to refer to as an energy room that is imprinted on the recording. I don't pretend to know exactly how that happens, but I know that it's real. So there's a full, rich energy that we can access. This is subtle frequencies of energy that we are capable of finding with our ordinary human consciousness. And then as I create this energy room with my group of meditators, I hold that practice so that when you join on my recording, you come into my energy room. Just like we create little Zoom rooms and other kinds of things on the internet, that is a physical manifestation of what's happening on the inner planes.
So you don't have
to be holding this.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you don't have to be you don't have to be physically with somebody to amplify that energy and to receive the benefit of each other's energy.
That is correct. You do not have to be. We have.
Maybe that's why Zoom and these Clubhouse and all these kind of rooms have really become more popular, because we feel, and we're not just feeling, we are really feeling the energy of being with other people. It's not just that we're seeing them.
Absolutely. So you've hit a very important point. We are beginning to realize how truly powerful we are as human beings, especially as collaborators in the energy. So when you join a room, it's just like going to a party. A really great party is in place, man, and there are people laughing and they're telling funny stories and they're being serious and they're really connecting. That's all happening in this energy surround. So we can do that as human beings in these energy rooms. So I use Zoom as my platform. I'm looking at all of my meditators. We're looking at each other, but we've got our eyes closed now because we're meditating. We're no longer physically looking at each other. We're energetically looking at each other. We're finding each other as energy. So think of a garden that you really love to visit, or the seashore, or a beautiful piece of architecture that you really just enjoy looking at. It has an energy about it, a piece of art, a beautiful symphony of music. There's an energetic component to that. That's the real richness. That's the richness of the human experience. So what we're doing now is learning how to separate ourselves from time and space and do it on the inner planes. This is an evolution of who we are as human beings. This is a new thing we're learning how to do. You and I are doing it right now, having this wonderful conversation. I'm on Maui. You're in Florida. We're having this beautiful energy experience together that transcends just us looking at each other on this apparatus that's in front of us, right?
It's so true.
Real.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And what I'm finding as I talk openly and honestly about my deep experiences in my meditation practice is that almost everyone I speak to has had an inkling of this already. They've kind of caught it out of their peripheral vision, out of the corner of their eye. What was that? Wow. And when somebody looks at them and says, yeah, I experienced that too, it's real. We really are changing who we are as human beings. We really are evolving into something new. They say to themselves, wow, that was really something. And then they go and talk about it to somebody else, and then it spreads. This is how the change is happening. This is the thing that's going on kind of underneath the busyness and the sort of weirdness that's going on that we can see and experience. There are people like us all over the world experiencing this transformation.
Yeah, I think we are becoming on many levels much more connected to ourselves, which really connects us further to the earth. And which is why, for myself, who starts a business because I care about natural ingredients, and then it moves into, I need to get rid of plastic waste from these consumer goods, and looking around me and seeing all these store owners who are making the drive to open up stores that are, package free and refillable. And, all of those store owners that I've spoke to, they are very much connected to themselves. And I think that this is really where we're moving into, or have moved. I feel like the shift to that has taken place. And I'm sure if somebody's listening right now and they were like a tree hugger and Greenpeace back in the 60s or 70s, they're probably like, no, we've been there. But I feel like in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, it really feels, and maybe it's because I have found myself more centered there, and I'm naturally bringing more people like that in my life, right? The like brings like in a lot of sense. And so maybe it's been a little bit of that happening, but maybe it's a little bit too that we have been trained so well to be busy, multitask, find ways to get as much productivity, like you said before, let's be productive in the day. And it's like, used to be, up until recently, I never even heard corporations talking about nap time, permitted nap time, corporate nap rooms. I mean, and napping is not really even just, okay, I'm going to go to sleep for an hour, right? It's the calming of the brain. It's getting in, slowing it down, getting rest, breathing, listening to your body and stuff. And honestly, in my calendar, every day of the week, in my calendar in the afternoon around 3 p.m., a little alarm goes off and it says, relax my brain. And I sometimes just turn the alarm off and I keep going to do what I'm doing. But if given when I try to do the right thing and I do follow through on that, I go out to my patio and I sit out there and I just watch the wind blow by, or listen to the birds, or, watch my beautiful plants. And sometimes my most creative moments can come out of that, or my biggest solutions to a
Absolutely.
problem that I've been struggling with. So
Perfect.
I feel
Perfect.
like, making that time for myself shouldn't be on the back burner. And I still find it humorous that I know it feels good and it's really good for me, but yet it's not the habit that I want it to be, which is why I'm here working on this. I feel like the more I can work on it, the more people like you, Miriam, that I can connect with that reminds me to do the right thing or that teaches me a great tool to do the right thing. It's really powerful. So I had a full intention of, I find it interesting that my intention was to contact you before we actually got on this recording today. And I wanted you to do some sort of breath work with me and the listeners while we were on. So I found it interesting that when went kind of right into the alternate nostril breathing, I was like, she's doing it. I didn't even ask. you know?
All
So
right. So,
it is a connection,
wow.
the energy is
This is the
connected.
connection. So, yes. Right. So here's what I did as my practice before I got on this call with you. I listened for you. I reached out to you with my own consciousness. I sat in my quiet and I did my own meditation this morning, as I do every morning. It is the most important thing I do in the day now. It is, without a doubt, my deepest commitment. And it's not just a commitment to myself and well-being. It is now my service to humanity. It is my way of making an energetic contribution to find these deeper frequencies and flows so that they are now available to everyone. So I sat, I listened, I found you, and I connected to you. And I thought, wow, she has such a bright, welcoming energy. I felt very welcomed. And that was a really lovely feeling. So I will tell you, though, that I've done a number of these podcast interviews and I have never done a breath exercise. So that clearly came from you. That came from your intention. So here we are.
I got
with
goose
a
pimples
real...
all over my body right now.
See how it works? See how it works? So, okay, so I want to reframe something that you said about doing the right thing and making time for oneself. I feel like that is it's kind of an entry level way of framing that topic. So when you take a step beyond, I'm doing this as self-care, I'm doing it as just taking a moment to rest. It's more like a kind of engagement. So Einstein used to say that he found his greatest ideas when he was daydreaming. He wasn't pencil to the paper, nose to the grindstone, scritchy, 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 writing out formulas. He'd already done that. He'd done a lot of work, and then he sat and he daydreamed. And when we do that, we allow ourselves to access like attracts like, which you mentioned a moment ago. We allow ourselves to sort of freely float in the energy, contacting the deeper flows that we can connect with from within ourselves, maybe even collaborating energetically with another person. So what it becomes is a different way of approaching what eventually is a productive time. It's not just rest. It can be just, whew, I'm just not doing a darn thing for the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to be really quiet. But it can also be this way of readjusting your focus. So if our focus is always outside, thinking, putting things together, gathering information, okay, so that is one way of doing it. I love doing that, by the way. That's fun. I like it. I like doing things like that. But also coming within, finding a flow, finding this project that you're working on as energy. Does it have a symbol? Is there a color or a flow or a feeling that I have about this project that I can amplify? What does the project need? Maybe it needs harmony. Maybe it needs connections with others. Can I find that as a quality of energy and just be with that for a moment? So let's imagine harmony. Close your eyes again. Breathe in, breathe out. Just relax into your body. Feel your sitting bones on your chair. Feel your spine long and tall. Recognize your own field of energy. Now, for just a moment, imagine all the people listening to this podcast right now. Like we're all sitting in a big auditorium, and there's all these beautiful people, and they're all listening, they're all breathing. Now imagine we're listening to a tone, just one sound, just like somebody's singing one pure note. And now there's another note, and it's a harmony to the first note. And now there's a third note, and it's a harmony. Oh, maybe they're colors that are harmonious. Maybe it's blue and yellow, and now there's green. Or maybe it's red and yellow, and it's orange. And now it's just this harmonious energy, and all of the people listening are feeling that harmony. So notice how we can find each other. We can expand our sense of who we are to include all these lovely, beautiful people who are listening. And we're all thinking about harmony. Breathe that harmony in, and breathe that harmony out. All right, now think about some situation, person, or project in your life you would like to add harmony to. Oh, doesn't it feel wonderful? Oh, it just got so big. So much harmony between all of us, even people way into the future. Imagine those future people coming. So now we're not even in time anymore. We're out there somewhere beyond time. All the future people feeling the harmony and offering, expanding, and just being the harmony for whatever the project is or the person who needs some harmony. Notice how you feel. Notice your body. Notice your breath. All right, come back into the room. Open your eyes. So that is one way of working on things as energy. So you find a quality of something you want to amplify, and you expand into it. You let yourself just be it. So 400 years ago, Newton and all those guys were defining science as something that happened outside of ourselves. We shifted our focus as humanity over time to place the importance on what's outside. And now we're returning to an understanding that what is inside of us is really where the vastness is. As we touch our consciousness onto reality, it changes. So if you come into reality with this calibration to harmony, like we just practiced, when you move out into your world, you carry that field with you. You can change all of reality around you as you bring it. So if you shift your thinking from something that I must do because it's good for me to a new way of being in the world, that's just a different way of expressing, a different way of experiencing, a different way of being with the energy. Now it is much more natural. It seems like just something I kind of want to do.
Yeah, and I think that is going to come through some of the practice that you talked about earlier in making it more of this daily habit. I particularly found it interesting when you talked about setting up yourself to listen to the same music for a year, the same music and was that in the morning? Was that kind of your morning routine? You would get up and listen to that same music?
I did it in the morning. I find that it sets the energy for the entire day. It can be as little as 10 minutes. I did it with my breath practice, so it turned out to be more like half an hour to 45 minutes. But I had a fair amount of time available to me at that time. But if you did 10 or 15 minutes, you would find it would really make a huge difference. And I'll give your listeners one other tip that really was very, very useful to me. I got a pencil and a piece of paper, and I put it next to my seat where I would do my practice. So when you first start to sit, your mind is very busy. And a lot of times, if you've been really busy, the things your brain is trying to tell you are very important and you don't want to forget them. It's like, oh yeah, I need to do that thing, must remember. So instead of meditating, you're trying to remember that thing that your brain told you was, because it is important. You really do want to do it. But if you write it down, that way when your brain reminds you, you can go, I wrote that down, brain. Thank you.
We can move on now.
And we can move on. I would even sometimes just check. Yeah, okay, I did write that down. Okay, I really can let that go. So for me, it helped me empty my brain and recognizing much of the things the brain was telling me were very important. So I'm recognizing how powerful it is to me, how useful the brain is to me. And like, okay, so I'm going to write these down. I know it's there. I'm going to revisit my list when I come out. But then also at the end of my meditation practice, I was in a deep state of connectivity. There was a deeper level of information that came forward that I really wanted to remember. And I wrote that down. So the ordinary consciousness has these important things to impart. And I wrote that down. And then when I had something else, that deeper reflection or memory or epiphany even, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way. I wrote that down. And over time, when I would go back and look at those things I wrote and reflect on it, I could see the usefulness of my own personal journey. And it gave me impetus to continue to sit every day until it became so important I couldn't not sit. I have to do it. Now it is an important part of how I process the world. It's an important part of how I access these deeper flows of energy and how I organize what is going to be my action out in the world. So piece of music, piece of paper, pen or pencil. Also, one last thing I'll say about that is it really helps to have a dedicated spot where you do your practice. And you can do other things in that spot. It's not like you have to dedicate some room of your home to meditation. But if you have the same spot and you do it in the same place every day, you light a candle, you set your music, or you even just open the window and listen, or you do kind of a same routine, it creates an energy surround right there that assists you in making your practice more consistent.
It's really good advice. I'm actually excited to try some of these. I'm a huge music fan, which is the podcast name is The Grateful Redhead, and I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. So I love live music, and music has always been such an important part of my life. So when you started talking about what I would call the musical Pavlov's dog, I really honed in on that. I'm like, yeah, I could get that. I could see where it would say, okay, I'm just going to sit down and listen to this song. I'm not going to attach like this. I need to, regiment myself. I'm just going to sit down and listen to this song. So I feel that could be a way for me to turn it more into something that just becomes, instead of me feeling like beautiful. I have to force it. Yeah. Really
wonderful. Good. Well, yeah, exactly. That is, you really got it. You really, really understand the power of being able to use these tools to create a surround that serves you. So you're moving into it as something you really want to do. It really becomes something you want to do rather than something you feel like it's just really good for you, which it is.
Right.
You have to do. Man, there's so many things we have to do. The list is
Yes.
is
Yes. We don't
interminable.
need one more have to. I want to. I want more want tos in my life. So
I want more want tos. Oh, yay.
one more want tos.
I love it. I love
I
it.
think this has been a fantastic discussion. I am really excited to kind of put the rubber to the road on getting that piece of music. And you said that there are some pieces of music on your website, right? That I could go download there.
Right. Yeah, you can. It's not a download situation. It's really just.
Okay.
Well, I might. I think I have some actual links that you can go to other places you can download.
Okay.
So, yes,
Because you
Miriam's
mentioned it
meditations.
needed no words and need to be rhythmic. I actually took no words and a rhythmic flow.
Non-rhythmic.
No,
Non-rhythmic
non-rhythmic.
flow.
It's a good thing I
Right.
reread
So
that
what I'm
note.
saying is that you don't want it to be dum dum dum.
Okay.
Because now you're off somewhere else. You want something that goes.
Okay. So you can't hook into the rhythm. It's
right.
okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
So you want something that is bringing you to a place where your brain is going to settle. It doesn't have a rhythmic hook. It doesn't have a poetic hook. It's not saying something. It's allowing you to create a little space in your consciousness.
Cool.
So, Steve Halpern is an artist that I've used his work before. Peter Cater is a pianist. He has some really beautiful meditative music.
And are these musicians the ones available on your website, or should I note those down right here and go specifically and look for them? I'm
trying to remember what I actually put on my website. I think Stephen Halpern is definitely there. The other one is the group that I study with, luminescence.com. Their other website address is orindaben.com, ORINDABEN.com. That website, I do have a link to their music. They have, and I don't know that the music is available anywhere else. This is the meditation group that I work with now, and their music is very, very powerful for setting a meditative space.
Okay.
The musician, his name is Thaddeus, and I do have a link to that on my website so that you can download their music. I found a half-hour piece of music was really useful in case I really got into it and it was really great and I'm really enjoying it. 10 minutes is up, boop, now you're out. So you can stop anytime, obviously.
Right.
10 minutes goes by and you're really kind of complete. You can just turn the music off. But if you have a longer piece of music and you really gain some quality energy flow for yourself, you want to have enough space to expand into it.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great idea. So before we wrap up today, there's just a few things I want to make sure that we cover is just to kind of revamp the kind of the best ways for people to get started. Because I do feel like because I stop and start, I'm restarting this. So I, to recap in my brain, it was, pick that piece of music, sit down and just allow yourself to be in that space for 10 minutes, even if I could. And to also do some of the breathing, maybe not at the same time, but I can do that breathing throughout the day whenever I feel that that's necessary. I know that there's a wide range of breathing out there, and we just touched on a speck of it. So maybe I could ask you to be my guest back on the show and we could do an episode that's really all breathing. Would you be open to
wonderful.
That?
Oh, I would love to do that. That would be really, really fun.
Because I've been told I've been told that I have low fire, an issue with low fire, and that there's some, I can't remember the name of the breathing.
There definitely is. Well, there's one called the breath of fire.
That should be the one I should be doing.
Ignite you. I would like to say one thing, though, a caveat about the breathing practice. It is a practice. And in order for it to be truly useful to you in your daily life, when you run into speed bumps or situations that are difficult, it really helps if you've practiced. Okay. It's like it's like if you're in an orchestra and you show up for rehearsal with all the other musicians, but you didn't really do your part. You didn't really practice your part. You're just kind of winging it. Winging it doesn't really work as well. It's just not, you want to train your body that this is a more automatic response. And the only really way to do that is to practice.
Okay.
But the practice really is fun. It has so much richness to it that even just a small commitment of a week or 2 weeks, if you did it every day, you would find yourself gaining benefit immediately. It builds on itself.
Ooh.
And so we certainly can do a breath practice. I'll engineer something I think that your listeners would be able to access and find appealing.
Okay.
And then we can write some instructions so that they can refer to those. That's the other part of it, is to
that's a good
have
point.
a qualified teacher.
Yeah. Okay,
right. So
good.
I could write I have instructions for the breaths that I teach. They're on my website. So if you listen to my podcast, miriamsmeditations.com, it's available on Apple, Spotify, Google, all the major podcast servers. If you start with some episodes from my season 1, there are some more basic instructions. Okay. Season 2, we get a little more involved in the practice, and you might find that, well, I really wish I knew a little bit more clearly how to do this particular breath. That's all in season 1. So you don't have to do the whole season, but if you sort of look through the descriptions, you'll see that there are some episodes that have a lot of very good description of how to do the breaths.
That sounds really good. And I'll tell you, when you said it only takes maybe 2 weeks or so, I'm thinking that's the perfect thing for me to set as my New Year's resolution and get January started off right, because that would be a resolution I would want to keep, and probably one that I could actually follow through on and feel really different by the end of January. So I look forward to following up with you and working out this date. And I hope everybody who's getting a chance to listen to Miriam today really got as much value as I did. It's been awesome. So before we close up, you're very welcome. Before we close up today, just I know you've said a couple of your websites, but go ahead and share with us your websites again and how we should best contact you.
Okay, so my website is miriamsmeditations.com. It's MIRIAMS meditations.com. Or you can listen to my podcast, Miriam's Meditations, or you can write to me at contact@miriamsmeditations.com. I'd love to hear from your listeners if they have a question or something really rung a bell for them. I'm really open. I love to respond.
That's so great. Thank you for, giving people your time and your energy like that too, more on an individual basis.
This was really, really, really fun, Angie. I really enjoyed our connection. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
It was so much fun to share with you and all of your listeners. Yay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm very grateful for the time that you've given today. And I'm glad that we've now established this friendship, and I look forward to connecting to you further in the future as well. So again, whoever is listening today to the podcast, if you know somebody amazing like Miriam, please reach out to me, connect me with that person. I mean, isn't this an amazing way for us to spread the beautifulness that people are doing and to improve ourselves, others, and the planet along the way? So thank you for listening today. And until we all meet again, please be kind to one another and love each other. Peace out. So before you go today, I want to thank you for listening to this episode. I've built a business on formulating natural household cleaning and body products without plastic bottles or plastic packaging. So if you'd like to give them a try, head on over to wastefreeproducts.com and use promo code GratefulRedhead for 10% off your entire order. Thanks for listening.